evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett, along with my partner in crime, Aaron Quinn. Aaron, how we doing?
Doing great, Greg. Needed this type of performance after maybe the longest bye week that we've ever had to survive.
Speaking
our
of
way
which,
through.
our friends at Southern Tier, I've been waiting. Here, everybody listen close. I've been waiting to crack a nice, victorious caramel pumpkin, imperial pumpkin ale. Finally, thank you. It's for 3 weeks. This is way too long.
We got to work on that pop. You got to get that up closer to the mic a little. Pop that thing open. I bet it's delicious though. Victory drinks taste far better than others. That's actually been scientifically studied. That drinks after a Bills win taste better.
Yes. So on that note, you are joining us because the Buffalo Bills have thrashed the Carolina Panthers 40-9. They had a third quarter 40 burger before they took Josh Allen and James Cook out of the game. Much needed, as Aaron, intelligently said there. This was a really rough spot to have the back-to-back losses, frustrating losses, both winnable games at moments there, and you played really poorly, made some really bad decisions, bad play, and to come back today, we actually talked a little bit, we'll talk a little bit later in the show about what this may mean and some wish list things for fans still wanting to see the moves. One obvious negative note, it does look like a pretty serious injury for Ed Oliver. I'm not going to speculate or guess, but everyone that I trust is saying pretty much the same thing. Look like a, whatever they call, like a distal bicep injury. So looked like pretty serious. His arm was already in a sling in street clothes on the sideline in the second half. We'll wait and see what that is. If that's the case, that is often a 3-month injury. So that's like divisional round type stuff. So
I think it might impact some of the conversation later that you want to have. Maybe?
Yeah. So we'll wait on for all of our teasing here. The trade deadline is not until November 4th, so it's about 10 days from now. And I think many people, if you were kind of hoping for wanting the Bills to do well because you're a Bills fan, but still wanting them to make a move, today was about perfect because they dominated in the run game, but maybe still had some rough moments in the passing game, some moments that to our broadcast view without being able to see what was downfield. You don't know what's on Josh and what's on the receivers. It certainly didn't look like a ton of people getting open all the time on some of those throws and some of those sacks Josh took. So today was a perfect combination of you get a 40 burger, you get a 31-point victory, but maybe they still need a receiver. And now we'll kind of take a look and see what the combination may be of where that pecking order is of wide receiver, defensive tackle, or of course the proper answer, why don't you just go get both?
All safety.
All the
I don't
things.
know if that's we feel good about that yet or not.
I'll save that because I love the combo platter rotation thing they did today. I thought it was interesting to get a feel for what Hancock is ready for while also not exposing Poyer to open space running with receivers, obvious passing down stuff. I thought I wasn't expecting that. So for anyone who didn't see, from the very first third down, Poyer comes off to the side. They actually went not only to a swap for there when they brought in the pass rush personnel, they would actually go to a 3-2-6. So they brought in both Jordan Hancock and Cam Lewis and went with 3 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and 6 defensive backs. That's when you saw kind of that amoeba front and everybody lined up on the front. You don't know which 4 guys are going to come because one of the linebackers is going to come and one's going to drop. I kind of like that variability. And they would bring Cam Lewis in as the dime linebacker and Hancock in as the safety. So we'll see where that goes. But that was the rotation with Poyer today. It was interesting to see.
It was interesting. I've got a couple plays marked that I don't know how long-term sustainable that is. It helped who the quarterback they were playing today.
Correct.
And some of these spots also was helpful to the Bills defense. But, I don't want to take anything away from what they did in a weird spot defensively, having to rotate some of these pieces, having Trey and Harrison rotate and having Hancock and Poyer rotate and bringing some new guys in. They are kind of trying some new stuff here out of the bye, and you got to give them credit because I do think this staff and whether it's McDermott or Babich or whoever it is kind of gets the knock for like leaning to like he just runs the soft zone coverages. That's all he's going to do. And he's going to just keep, being so stubborn.
It's hyper aggressive today.
And they were hyper aggressive, and they gave us some new looks we haven't seen. Every time we think like we try to box this McDermott staff into like they're overly conservative or they just do the same thing, it's vanilla. They sort of always kind of send some type of wrinkle out there. We saw a lot of wrinkles on the defensive side, and I'm interested in the film this week on this.
How much of that was wrinkles and how much of it was, our friend and someone that both of us trust pretty implicitly with this, Eric Turner. I'm going to trust what he notices. And his reaction was, it looks like McDermott is calling plays on the sideline.
Yeah. Eric and I were talking about it offline. Even last game, I think both Eric and I were kind of like second half felt like a McDermott. Like it felt like there was a big difference.
Which is when when they started to come back and they made all the stops.
Yeah.
So if the last 6 quarters was McDermott calling the plays, I'm gonna need him to go ahead and do that the rest of the season.
I think he's in it. I texted Eric at one point. You saw a flash to McDermott. Well, early in the game, there was a flash to McDermott while the Bills were on offense, and McDermott had the call sheet and the tablet and was looking at defensive plays and like talking into his head, and he wasn't even paying attention to the offense, which I know he has done kind of. And so I texted Eric and I was like, man,
normally he's more CEO style during the
game. I was like, that might be a cue. And then maybe like 10 minutes later, you saw him right before a play, covering his mouth in with the call sheet, calling in a play. Again, I don't know. Nobody has said anything to us specifically, but that lines up with what we're seeing on the field, the difference in aggression, some of the different looks. Then plus you see him doing these things on the sideline would lead us to believe that he has taken over there. And I'm totally fine with that.
And obviously the results speak for themselves. It's probably the best 6-quarter stretch we've had in defense there. So Bill's Lecter saying we didn't seem to miss Terrell Bernard today. He was he was there and available. He just, I don't know if it was like emergency quarterback type thing.
That's what they said.
So he was
Joe B, I think,
active, but almost like how they might dress an emergency quarterback. So that was a piece there.
And I wonder how close they were between like both Milano and like maybe a coin flip of like one of you is going to be the emergency. We hope we don't have to play you guys because they both look close this week.
One of those things that, if it's a playoff game, I bet you both of them would have dressed and played, but
or maybe even the Chiefs game or something like down the road.
We'll find out next week. It was also nice. We got to rest so many guys here today. Obviously, still a downer to lose at Oliver for
huge downer.
At a minimum what's going to be an extended period of time. Maybe there's a surprise and it's not as bad as people thought, and it's only like 4 to 6 weeks or something like that. It looks very, very likely our best case scenario is 3 months, and that also means you're probably talking about it may be the season there. So we'll talk about that on the other side.
Yeah, so tough for Ed too, like on a Bills fan level, like maybe the best season he's had when he has been playing here. Yes. Like he's making an impact every time he is actually playing, but then to come back from an injury, play pretty well, was really dominating early in this game, and then to just go back out with an injury, it's the worst luck. And a guy that's just worked hard, and people wrote him off years ago as a bust, and this year coming into his own of being maybe one of the best linemen on this Bills team. Huge loss, both probably for that locker room and for that rotation. And it stinks too, because you were just getting back. Like you're just starting.
I'll talk about them in a second.
Yeah, this is kind of the story of the year, though. Like every time you feel like you're gaining a little bit of ground and some of the things, like another injury pops up. So hopefully they can get past it here. But yeah, that Ed one hurts for me, man.
Yeah, and on both ends of it, there were the less noticeable and the more noticeable. The one that people didn't notice as much, Larry Ogunjobi was doing a really nice job, like holding the point of attack, keeping the linebackers clean, getting some push in the pocket. He directly caused AJ Epenesa's sack later in the game. Flushed. He pushed his guard back into Dalton's lap as Dalton curled out. Epinesa cleaned it up for the sack. So some really positive stuff there. And then I don't know if there was a single defensive player today that was more noticeable than Michael Hoyt.
Oh, yeah.
Like Michael Hoyt flashed over and over and over. And like I don't even know what to call it. Like I'm going to call it like the little brother move. Like his thing where he does a bull rush that gets the guard back in the guy's lap. And then he does the thing where he jumps over the offensive lineman's head and reaches at the quarterback. Just that had a defensive pass breakup, a forced fumble that counts as a strip sack fumble, and another like throwaway for Darnold where he like bull rushes the guard back into Dalton's lap and reaches over top in a jump move.
Yeah.
It's like when your little brother like jumps over your dad and like smacks the guy.
He also had two, again, back to like, we have this conversation all the time about like sacks and sack numbers.
Yeah.
He had two at least assisted sacks on the day where he caused.
They counted him as 1.5. They gave him credit for 1.5. He caused at least one more, if not two more.
I counted two ones that, and that's what I was saying to Eric. I was like, these sack numbers can be so wonky because like he caused multiple ones where he won't get any credit for it. Like it's just a play for him. It won't show up on the box score anywhere, but it was chaos created by him that led to a sack. Somebody else still doing their job and cleaning up that sack. I'm not taking away the sack from the other players, but I wish there was some way to quantify like that pass rush that causes somebody to go into another sack, because he's got it. And that's my excitement for Hoyt has been like, and I think he's going to be this guy that come playoff time, he just seems to always kind of be around the ball and be where he needs to be to make a play.
If we're going to have any, again, this would have been obviously better with Ed Oliver, but one silver lining of a guy like Hoyt is he's incredibly versatile. A ton of his pass rush disruption was him in at a 3-tech and him inside as the inside pass rusher. So obviously we'll still need Ogunjobi to produce. We'll still need, my guy Dan Walker, another great game today, has not slowed down in the least. Another split sack, another tackle for a loss, more disruption there. But it was exciting. We saw Gregory Rousseau with another sack and a tackle for a loss. We saw Joey Bosa with multiple there, even the one that he got mad at himself that he stuck his leg out to be able to.
One of those Bosa ones though was like Andy Dalton fell.
It wasn't. That didn't count as a sack.
It didn't end up counting.
That was an aborted fumble and a tackle. And they actually initially credited Hoyt with the tackle, but it was an aborted fumble recovery and just a touchdown. So it's not a sack. So it was a legit sack plus the one that would have been the second sack. Because he had the one.
The defense bailed him out on that one though, because that put us in a terrible position.
It was first and goal. It was first and goal.
So upset, and great stand by defense when we get through that play-by-play portion of it. And who we haven't even mentioned, AJ Epinesa, maybe playing some of the best defense for the Bills this year, dude.
that tipped ball, like obviously he does that all the time, and like shout out to our guy David Fox, who had the fantastic like meme that he does every time he puts his arms up and gets the tip ball. He's so good at tipping the ball, but it's super like hyper athletic to be able to tip it and intercept it. The defensive line room is going to give him a hard time for not getting the touchdown and getting caught from behind. But a phenomenally impressive play. Really, really exciting there. And I think it's fun that we got to start with the defense here today because it was such a dominant defensive performance. They needed that so badly. But let's flip this around here today. For the first time in forever, we're going to start with the run game. This was James Cook and a James Cook dominant.
We could end with the run game too. Start and end.
19 carries for 216 yards and 2 touchdowns, 11.4 yards per carry, and he sat for the final 17 minutes of the game. Unbelievable game by James Cook. It seemed like every time he touched the ball, he was about to break it for a touchdown. There were 2 more long ones, or 2 more that looked like he was that close and got swiped from behind. I don't even know what his shortest carry of the day today was, but it seemed like he was ripping off 8 to 12 yards every time he touched the ball.
There was one negative 1 yard play, but that was it. That was the shortest of the day. Everything else was 11-yard gains. Not really, but it felt like obvious that way when he's getting that for yards per carry. Yeah, no, absolutely unbelievable. And I tweeted it out, Greg. Brandon Beane got so much crap this past bye week of he can't draft anybody, all this stuff. He can't draft playmakers. This is one of the most electric running backs in the NFL the last couple of years. Being drafted him, and not only did he draft him, he was able to re-sign him, even though all of us were saying with all the signings that they had, they wasn't going to be able to. What a great re-signing. And then you put him behind this Aaron Cromer line, and Reggie Gilliam today was just maybe one of the most impactful players outside of James Cook. Every time Reggie Gilliam was in, I felt like it was going to be an 8-yard run. They were just blasting holes. And keep in mind, I know you'll see the jersey and the Carolina Panthers and all the years that they haven't been good. This is right now at this point in the season, one of the best run defenses in the NFL. And the Bills made them look like amateurs all day long.
Yeah. So I'm very excited. Like the people are so excited to be able to watch today. My great aunt Pat asked my mom to come help her set up to be able to watch today. So my aunt Pat's watching for the first time in the postgame show. Hey, Aunt Pat.
Hey, how are you?
So it's phenomenal to be able to be in a spot like this where they had all that going in a game that was very Josh Allen like. I mean, obviously he had the 2 like tush push touchdowns, so like fantasy wise he's going to look fine.
And one of those was a defensive touchdown that AJ
just gifted us the ball at the 2-yard line, and that's a injury fumble return or interception return. And then we have a couple plays where you could see he was kind of mad at himself for not being in position. He missed Elijah Moore on that one crosser that would have been really nice in a big play. A couple others he was not quite there. Ends up 12 of 19 for 163 yards. 8.6 yards per attempt is fine, but an awful lot of that was on Khalil Shakir 54-yarder. There was a couple throws we'll get to on the drive-by-drive with Kincaid that he hit for a nice one, and a couple that we needed, but it just wasn't a very Josh Allen like game there. So just tough to be able to do that. But again, if you're on that wish list, I saw plenty of things in the comments of that you wanted to win today and you wanted to feel good about the defense, but you still wanted to trade for a receiver. I don't know that I saw anything today that would reassure us we don't need to add in that receiver room.
But I think that's more of a fan media optics than Brandon Beane. If Brandon Beane was looking for a receiver over the bye week and going into today, I don't think there was going to be any scenario that changed. Like, I think he knows that the season is long and that what they've seen in the 6 weeks, nothing that was done today was going to undo anything that they had seen in the previous 6 weeks. So I think that they were going to still be in on wide receiver either way. For me, the nice thing is, it's tough. I'm concerned a little bit with Josh Allen. Not major, but today you could really feel it. I think all the fans could feel it, but he's kind of been doing this a little bit this year where it seems like just a little bit off. I have a couple of plays marked. There was one on that first drive where it was an incomplete to, I think, Kincaid, but it looked like the seam was wide open. It was just like a bad throw to Kincaid. He hit him way too hot. There was a couple other ones where he was just off the mark, which isn't totally like him. I'm sure some of it is when we turn on all 22 guys not getting open downfield at times, but I did see sometimes guys were open. Some of the sacks and the way he's running around in the back of the pocket, he just doesn't look like himself. But outside of those concerns, which is nice, you heard guys like, oh my God, what's his name? Untucked, Sims saying, this team's too Josh Allen centric. Well, they just put up 40 and Josh Allen was like a secondary part of the game. He was really just a game manager for this game. Like, don't turn the ball over and get James Cook going and everything else will work out. And the defense played well. And so it is nice to be able to win in different ways and not have to rely on Josh Allen. So many times we've had to have him put on the superhero cape and make big runs and stuff. And he didn't have to do any of that today.
Yeah, and obviously you've been the biggest advocate that Khalil Shakir is our wide receiver one. I think he showed that for this roster. He absolutely is. I think it'd be really nice if he could be I'd love for him to be the T Higgins, the Jordan Addison, like the really nice high end number 2. Yeah. But he is our wide receiver one. 6 catches for 88 yards, 14.7 yards per catch. That long touchdown that he created, an awful lot of that after the catch, 54 yards, and I think 45 of that was after the catch. So being in a spot like that to be able to make those kind of plays and create, we had some other contributions here or there in the passing game. Coleman ended up 3 for 30. Dalton Kincaid had a really clutch catch on a big play, but it was his only one of the day, 1 for 23 yards.
There'd be more there, yeah.
So, again, we didn't need to. We were dominating them in the run game. Overall, we ran 35 times for 245 yards. So it obviously wasn't a problem there. They were doing what they needed to. But it was Shakir and then everybody else today.
Yeah, and it's a little tongue-in-cheek when I'm saying Khalil Shakir is wide receiver one. What I mean, obviously, is that I think he has such a skill set that everybody eats his great. He's a guy worth making sure you manufacture him some touches, and he showed it today. And some of the screens didn't go very, you'd get like 3 whatever yards, but you still got to keep keeping him honest. Yeah, it's like a Steph Curry. Steph Curry could miss his first 5 shots. I still want him shooting. I still want to find ways to get this guy shots. And that's the same thing with Khalil Shakir. Even if he's just struggling in a game, I feel like anytime he can touch the ball, it can break for a big play, just in the same way James Cook can. And that is going to take some of the pressure off Josh Allen. And to your point, like, I would love a better wide receiver to take some of the pressure off Khalil Shakir, because I think that'll only open things up even more for him.
Yeah, and I think that I also love that play on the big touchdown was throwing into pressure. Yeah. He threw into the blitz, threw right behind it, and that was, Eric always talks about that, like, Shakir should be your answer to pressure. Yeah. Like, when you have, like, that should be his immediate go-to is, hey, where's Shakir? And like, ideally he's on the side the pressure's coming from, because obviously in every offense you want to throw into the pressure because that's where it's vacated in the space behind there. But if you time that right, that's where you can get some really fun stuff. And today that 54-yarder is about as fun as it gets.
Absolutely. Yeah. You get him the ball. And honestly, I was impressed because he did have Kincaid he had the two options, right? It was Shakir kind of on that comeback a little bit, and then Kincaid was kind of coming out on that leak, and Kincaid was open. And I think in the past, Josh will take that kind of check down and hope it works out. But he really peppered that ball into Shakir and allowed the guy that is probably your best playmaker outside of James Cook to go and make a play. And that's what this Bills offense needs.
I love Chip here. The trashy Josh Allen had 3 touchdowns and 106 quarterback rating with no turnovers.
Touchdowns.
It's how high the bar is. And again, the 2 rushing touchdowns.
That's a misleading box score.
Those were gimmies. Those weren't anything that he produced, but
correct.
It's still nice that's where our bar is.
Yes. It was a fine game manager game, which is just something we don't anticipate not having with Josh Allen. But I want to just ask you real quick, and maybe the chat can help me here. That Shakir touchdown, it wasn't 20 plus air yards, so does that count?
It does not count. Correct. It does not count.
Okay.
Well, I mean, for that graphic, it doesn't. We still only have one 20 plus air yard touchdown here in the last year and a half, which is odd. In complete sincerity, is a little weird. Like, that is kind of odd.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah. When you get a 54-yard touchdown, I'll still count it. I
also think a weird thing about Josh Allen that is like a misnomer maybe is we know he has a rocket arm and a strong arm, but I still think some people mistake arm strength for deep throws. He really isn't a great deep ball thrower.
He's never been a even like a Russell Wilson, like where Russell Wilson always had that unbelievable ability to arc the ball to hit the guy right in stride. So Josh has a stronger arm than Russell Wilson, but Russell Wilson had that was just his unbelievable skill. And there are some other guys like that just have a great ability to time the pacing of a deep ball and let their guys run under it. And that's, it's not that Josh isn't capable of that. Who's that?
Joe Flacco.
Flacco's phenomenal with those. And it's not a matter of Josh not having that. It's just not his best skill. And there's a trust element there where we also don't have some great ball tracking deep threat receiver who's going to make him look good when you loft it up there. Like, that's half the battle. When you have Devontae Smith or Deshaun Jackson or whoever, it's a lot easier to feel comfortable. Like, hey, if I hang one up there and just throw it out, it's either going to be incomplete or my dude's going to go get the ball. If you had Brian Thomas Jr., something crazy like that. So it's interesting here to wrap up the overall performance. The offensive line today, I'm going to give like a 95%. The one sack was directly on them where Olsen pointed it out.
Yeah.
You had the 3 interior offensive linemen. Like, how do you not notice? Like, it wasn't like a disguised.
Is that on Josh?
I don't know who didn't adjust the protection, whether it was Josh or McGovern. They went left with 3 guys to the right.
6 versus 5 doesn't work.
And it wasn't even. It was 2 versus 3 on the right side, and then the left side was 3 versus 2. Yeah. So you had the guys to match up and block it, but you just let a free runner come straight at Josh.
And you can have a free runner like they pointed out, but it's got to be the outside free runner.
Yeah,
you can't let the guy come
where Josh can step up or do his okey doke that he's so good at. You can't let a guy straight in the face free rusher with the 1.5 seconds from snap. The other sack was 100% on Josh. One of the most junior high sacks we've seen him take in forever. How do you not? He took a 16. Thank God that Prater made the kick and made it good. But you can't take a a 16-yard sack that turns it into like a 50-yard field goal. He went
when
back
you're like in the red zone, basically.
Yeah, we're at the 14-yard line. You take a sack at the 30 and you turn it into a 48-yard field goal. Like,
and he had time to throw that ball away.
You've taken it from a gimme to like, hey, a 48-yarder is not automatic. That's now a challenging field goal. Like, you cannot take those. Those are ones that we make fun of.
Caleb Williams. I make fun of Caleb Williams. I text my brother every week. I'm like, dude, you can't. This is amateur. Why you can't take?
Gotta get rid of these balls. I'm waiting on the text. Just you can't do this. So again, Josh still had plenty of great plays. Like you said, a great game manager game, but some un-Josh-like plays today that were not ideal in the way that it was set up.
On the offensive side too, and it kind of in association with the offensive line, I thought the run game was so interesting today because it had that the tosses spammed on it, and it's such a smart way to attack this Carolina defense. You don't want to run at Brown in the middle of this defense. Run away from them, attack those edges that are kind of hyper aggressive pass rush edges. It was a very smart game plan, and it worked to a T. And they did it even coming out of half. Like, Carolina knew it. Canales talked about it at half and was like, oh my God, we got to stop this. And they continued to do it and dared them to stop it, and they couldn't. So hats off to the Aaron Cromer's offensive line there, and whoever. I know Cromer's involved in the design of the run game, but it was a real treat to watch today.
This guy knows, smash that like button. The algorithm knows how it works. I appreciate it. This is fantastic work. The special teams was fine-ish. Mitch, I'll start with the good. Mitch Wisnowski's best game as a Bill. Averaged 48 yards a punt. Both of his earlier inside the 20. His other one was still like a 54-yarder that was back pretty far. No touchbacks. Really good job. I think the holding was good. I don't know enough to see live if the extra point miss was on him or on Prater. I was a little like, obviously anxious anytime you see a extra point miss, but it was his preference is over on the hash, and he just kicked it straight, and it didn't come back the way that it normally was. It missed by like that much. He made the other 6 out of his 7 kicks today.
Carolina's kicker had a missed extra point too. Like, they do happen.
And he missed the scramble drill field goal at the end of the first half. No, but still, like, there were no other concerning things from Prater, so I'm not going to be concerned there.
No.
I was proud of Curtis Samuel. He didn't pull the who's the rookie running back from Iowa on the Steelers? Caleb.
Oh my God.
Caleb Johnson? Yeah. Caleb Johnson? Is that it? Whatever his name is. He had the play where he didn't know the new rule, and when it bounced into the end zone, he thought it was a touchback, and he gave, I don't know who it was that game, whoever they were playing, a free touchdown. I was proud of Curtis Samuel. He scrambled back and got the ball off the bounce, and got it there. They were fine. Ty Johnson ran into Curtis Samuel on the other kick return.
Their kicks are weird, though. Those dirty kicks that Carolina does. Like,
good for them.
Yeah.
Good for Caleb Johnson against the Seahawks. Producer Cowan, fantastic work. What did you think of our rotational grab bag punt return thing?
Just
to be honest, if you had to put one guy back there from like a risk and liability standpoint, wouldn't you rather put Coleman back there and not have Shakir get hit? Because if Shakir's just going to fair catch, put Coleman back there. Let him contribute.
I don't know. I have to see it. I know Coleman did a lot of it in college and and he's been good at yards after catch in the league. Like, he does have a way about him. The one he took, man, I actually thought he got hurt on the play, and somehow he got up. He got
that second. He made the jump cut, and he jump cut into a linebacker flying at him, who crushed him. Luckily, got him in the chest, not the head, but crushed him.
Yeah, and for some reason, I don't know if it's just like a bias I have with Keon Coleman. Something about him feels like a mistake waiting to happen. So I just don't feel great with him back there, but I'm sure that he'd be fine. And to your point, from that risk,
would you rather Keon Coleman get crushed than Khalil Shakir get crushed?
Yes, but I do think in a closer game, in a more meaningful game, even though he hasn't really done it a ton, he does seem to more be a fair catch guy. Shakir seems to have that like ability of that pinball, Bruce likes to say, the pinball. So he gives me a little bit more of like that. Oh, I think he could take one.
I'm confident he's better at it. I just don't want to expose him to it.
No, but at some point
you're going to need in the playoffs,
stuff like that. I think Coleman's going to have a tough time finding spots to play if he continues to play the way he is, especially if in the next 10 days, the Buffalo Bills do trade for a wide receiver, that's going to make it really interesting to kind of shake out how he's used on game day active rosters. And so punt return might be his like ticket to keeping a spot.
Yeah.
Not that I don't think it'll be like a game, but I'm just saying like to keeping him on the field right now.
It would be interesting. I agree. We'll see where that goes. One last piece before we go to the drive by drive. Did you have it on your bingo card that Max Hairston would hit an opposing player so hard that they had to leave the game?
Hit him. No, that was a great play.
Did you have that on your? Because
I don't play bingo. I'm more of a Keno guy. No, I'm just kidding.
It was a nice play. He didn't crush him, but like it was a really nice play. Like a really stout, nice open field tackle hit him, then kind of like carried through the body, held onto the legs, held him. Really good open field tackle for a guy that is the number one risk. Like that is my number one concern is open field tackling. He came up and made that hit, and like as they went said like he had to go off of the field for after the tackle. I just giggled to myself of like you had to leave the field because Max Hairston tackled you. Like,
well, I feel like Horn is like the Max Hairston of receivers. Like fast,
Jimmy Hort's like, not a big guy. Not a big guy.
So it was like little guy on little guy. But honestly, you need to see it. Is exactly great. I wanted him to be tested in some of the ways that we saw, and I'm super excited. Again, another guy that I have a bunch of plays marked, and I'm really excited to dig into the tape because that's the position. Like you could see up at the line of scrimmage some of the stuff, and it's like, okay, that's cool. But and then beyond it.
You could see multiple times Dalton's first read was to go at him, and he didn't make the throw.
Right.
So I'm hoping that means what I hope it means. Like I'm hopeful that it is what I'm wishing that it means, that he had sticky coverage and they had to go away from that because that's awesome. That's exactly what we need.
Right.
And the things that Trey just doesn't have the confidence in his physical abilities to do anymore to play that sticky coverage. So that kind of mechanism is super encouraging. I'm also curious to see, like, I wasn't tracking it I naturally watch the defensive line. That's my like starting point on every play. So I usually almost always notice the rotation of the defensive line and who's coming in. I don't naturally look to see when corners switch. So I did see the one play where Tedero McMillan was on a deep crosser and that it was Trey White chasing him. That one stuck out to me. But I'm curious to see what the snap count was and how many snaps Hairston got on the game today. I know he was in on the second drive. I don't know if that equated to rotating every other. But I'm curious to see when the snap count report comes out. Our guy Sal is always right on the ball with that stuff. I'm curious to see if he has that there.
It looked like in the second half there might have been a couple drives in a row where Trey had, but for the most part I was tracking where it looked like it was almost every other, almost exclusive. I didn't track it exactly, but at least at the start of the game they were kind of doing.
If it's close to 50-50, that would be super encouraging.
Well, and then at the end of the game, I think there's also going to be some snaps that they would just took vets off the field too. So
that's a good point. That was super easy time to give Hairston more reps at the end of the game. So even if it shows, how about this? If it shows 50-50, that means Trey actually played more. If it shows like 60-40 Max Hairston, that means it was probably 50-50 when the game mattered.
Probably. I think it would have to, go look in the first three quarters, right? Because the fourth quarter
if there was a way to cut off the snap count by quarter, that would be interesting to see.
Yeah, but either way, I think one, ahead of schedule. We were all saying Miami, right? Like that made a lot of sense. I know you were saying that a couple of weeks ago on the show. That made a lot of sense. So for him to even clear that bar here yesterday when we saw the
fact that they activated him 6 days after opening the window.
Surprise.
The Bills have not only never done that with an injured player coming off of injured reserve, they've certainly never done it with a rookie. So like to feel that, I'm gonna even get to feel the need to do that, I think matters, and to have the confidence in his physical ability and his recovery is super encouraging. But I think anyone, not that I want to poke fun at our dear friend Pat Moran, but for anyone who was trying to take the case of like, I don't know if he's going to play this year, they're going to keep him on ice and like maybe that like he would just be an insurance policy and that, it was going to be Trey White and we have a bet he's going to owe me dinner. So I believe it's going to be a Sunday Reds. But I'm looking forward to Pat buying me dinner. But it was even faster than I expected. Like I was making the case that the rotation would start week 10 and that down the stretch in the final 6 to 8 games, he'd be 100% starter and into the playoffs. The fact that they rotated literally 6 days after opening the window, he's going to be our 100% starter. Like
week
10 on. Like maybe he rotates again next week. But hell, they may throw him in next week.
I was gonna say, I think they not that they are looking ahead, but I do think there's some speed up ahead here in this next week.
There's some guys who wear red jerseys next week.
Getting some legs underneath him here for a game, getting some contact and feeling his way into the NFL. Because I do think all the things that Sean McDermott said about him are correct, and that he's got to kind of figure this game out fast. But I think they saw what's upcoming here and said, hey, we gotta, if he's cleared by the doctors, which he clearly was, let's get him in and start this process now. And a huge pleasant surprise. Very excited to go back and watch that.
All right. So the Bills opened this game. They won the toss. They deferred to the second half, opened up the double dip. And anytime you have that happen, the best case scenario is coming out with a 3-and-out to be able to, take full control of that and to take advantage of the fact that you won the coin toss so that now you truly get the extra possession. You had Deanne Walker and Joey Bosa combine on the stop on the first play. Dorian Williams, actually a really nice tackle on the second one. And then Ed Oliver with an amazing sack on Andy Dalton. Again, pour one out for our guy, Ed Oliver. Let's pray we can get him back for the playoffs here. And we get that 3-and-out. Although shouts to our guy Sam Martin. Sam Martin citing 54-yard punt to open it up.
He had a pretty good day. Couldn't ask for a better start. The Carolina Panthers, people like Rico Dowdle.
I was worried about the run game. I won't lie. I watched you guys on the pregame show. I thought John was maybe a little too confident, but he wasn't wrong. Like the Panthers played really tough at home, the really good run game. That's what's tested us. There was reason to be anxious.
Yes, granted, they didn't really play. I think a lot of the kind of they played.
That Atlanta game was the biggest one. Smoking Atlanta 30-0 at home was the biggest one where I'm like, how did that happen? That's so weird.
It's such a weird game. But be able to, and I think people talked about Rico Dowdle as like he's that guy, but Hubbard's still that guy. Like Hubbard is still a top back for them. They're gonna have a weird time, and I think Greg Olson sort of talked about how they manage these both really good running backs, but to come out and stuff the run like that and get the sack. It was 3 plays and -5 yards. You can't start better than that unless you got like a interception on the on their field position. But fantastic start to the game, and it really did. All the talk about, hey, they're coming out tackling, they're doing the run gap stuff, all this stuff, I kind of like rolled my eyes at that when everybody was coming out of the bye, but you saw it here early on the defense.
And Shapiro saying the whole D front shine today, and it does stink that we're not going to have Oliver for Casey. That is a tough one, but we'll see. Random one thrown in here before we do the next drive. Just the Tippy Canoe says that the Arby's he had for lunch has given him the toots. Have you tried Arby's new steak bites?
Arby's,
because it both terrifies me, and I would be lying if it doesn't slightly intrigue me.
Dude, no, it doesn't.
I should not do that.
I wouldn't do it. I don't eat it at Arby's.
I like the Chick-fil-A grilled nugget bites.
There you go. Their curly fries are fine, but I can buy the Arby's curly fries at Aldi.
We do.
And just
we do. It's actually one of Gregory's favorite things. He loves the seasoned curly fries. We actually buy like the Ore-Ida brand, but they're the Arby's seasoned curly fries.
Yeah. But yeah, no, you're not going to catch me eating steak bites at Arby's.
Okay. I'm going to regret it, but I'm definitely going to find out.
Mm-hmm.
So then the Bills come out, they get the ball back. You go on a immediate, first time James Cook touches the ball, 12-yard run
on the top, and then it just spammed from there.
Yes, literally. Where was it? I think you've had one of those here. The toss left was the 1960 Green Bay Packers. Like it was literally like just toss after toss after toss. It was absolutely gorgeous to see. It was fantastic.
It's like me in a Tecmo Bowl. I usually just toss it out to Thurman Thomas. That was my thing.
The chat is telling me Arby's is not it, so they're agreeing with you there.
I know. I don't need people to confirm it for me. I know it's not it.
It's not great. It's not great. So we get to a 3rd and long and get the nice conversion. That's the one where Shakir kind of made it right. That was a heady play by Josh, because that was the one where he did the multiple motion zone man checks, even a late one that cut the clock pretty close, but set it up where he knew he had 2 blockers plus Shakir against 2 defenders. And that's obviously just great, decision making at the line there to be able to do this. So, credit Josh for that one. Then boom, right back, 11-yard run, 6-yard run, 9-yard run. James Cook just bashing them down. Of course, we bring Ty Johnson in, 0-yard runs. Shocking. Yeah. we try to throw a ball to Ray Davis, incomplete. Then again, this is the one where it was 3rd and 10, so it's not like that's an automatic conversion, but this is the one where the offensive line puts us in a weird spot. Josh Allen takes the sack on the untouched rusher, the linebacker out of
Shakir was wide open too.
And like that one, if they just shift right instead of shift left, we pick that up. It goes, Shakir gets the first.
I honestly think Shakir might score there. Like he was open with a lane. I don't know.
Which always is a positive. We'll see in just a moment. Always a positive for Khalil Shakir.
Yes.
So we settle for the field goal on a spot where all of a sudden we had a first down of the 23 coming up, just dominant run downs. And
it's a win for Carolina. If you're a Carolina fan, you're like, whew, we got out of there with just 3. Awesome.
Like, dude, we were dominating them down the field and somehow end up with 3 points. So, okay, they kind of survived there. Now Carolina gets the ball, and they finally get a little something going. You get
Harrison's first drive. This is where Harrison
yes.
his first drive.
You get the ball, the pass to Tap McMillan. That one was not involving Harrison. That was a zone play behind Benford. That Bishop was the handoff there, and that was just kind of a nice spot to get the ball to. Yeah. They start moving their way down. You get the nice run, the 24-yarder by Rico Dowdle made it a little bit nervous, and all of a sudden it's like, oh man, we got a little something going. And then Andy Dalton, and again, this is a trend we're going to see. He held onto the ball like my son holds onto the remote. He would not get rid of the ball and thought he was going to scramble here and just didn't feel Gregory Rousseau coming from behind him. And Rousseau with the great swipe gets the forced fumble. Christian Benford falls on it. The Bills get the ball back, feeling pretty good.
When Greg Rousseau lays out horizontally,
he's like 5 yards.
I was gonna say he's like 8 yards long.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. Back to that big 3rd and 5 run from Dowdle. First of all, the balls of Canales to run on a 3rd and 5. Maybe it's because the Bills' run defense is suspect and people aren't scared to do it. But for him to run out of that, but that was one I definitely had. I think to your point of the way they rotated Hancock and Poyer, Hancock had a really poor angle on this, which allowed that play to really become an explosive play. And so I think you saw some of the concerns maybe that the Bills have of him in those types of play positions, and that he's probably right now better as a pass, where they probably would have wanted Poyer in that moment, but thinking 3rd and 5, they're probably thinking a passing down, and Canales had a great play design. But that was one where I charted him of man, he got caught flat-footed and just a terrible angle. And you can't do that with these running backs, right? If they get into that level, you got to be solid there.
This was huge. This was a huge game for Game Script as well, because this was a game where if they got the fluky stuff early and got an early lead and got to lean on us with those 2 running backs, I hate to say it, but they probably could have. They probably would have been able to. It got away from them here. Dalton did them no favor.
The Bills won early when the game was still within grasp for them here. The Bills defense did a good job of winning on the first down. When you go back and watch Carolina, how they were able to dominate offensively on some of these teams, it was getting 8 yards on first down. And then it's a 2nd and 2. You can do everything you want from there.
Everything's in play. And in 2nd and 2, play action is deadly.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there wasn't a lot of those here today. I think maybe a 5-yard run on first down was what they were really getting out of a first down run, but they weren't able to kind of get ahead of the chains and dictate to the Bills.
Yeah. So the Bills get the ball back here. Now it's okay. We're finally going to put it away again. 6-yard run, 24-yard run. We have a couple incompletions, but then we hit the big one on 3rd and 10 to Kincaid, much needed. Then another run from Cook. And now we get the weird one where, Elijah Moore was, just out of bounds, ended up not counting, so now we have to try to convert again, and we end up getting the penalty, but we get another nice play to Dawson Knox that covers it up. We actually now hurry up and do the tush push, but Curtis Samuel wasn't lined up on the line of scrimmage, so us hurrying hurt in that moment, and then come out of there. Josh now gets the crazy 16-yard sack, which was really annoying. So, again, you get from a spot where you're on the Panthers' 9-yard line, and you end up needing at one point to kick a 48-yard field goal. I think their encroachment made it 43 after there, but just a lot of risk in that moment. And the same thing, hey, we just dominated our way down the field both times, get into the red zone, into touchdown territory, and somehow walk away with 2 field goals. And you're sitting there thinking, these are the games where dominating doesn't count if you don't convert and you let another team hang around. And if they were to answer with a touchdown, that's the kind of play where all of a sudden it feels like, oh man, how did we let them hang around in this game? And now it's, nasty.
Yeah. And you can afford to do this. I don't want to take anything away. It's a good win. This is a good team. I don't think Carolina's as good as maybe they got hyped up over, but I think it's a top.
They're probably going to be hanging around for that 7th wildcard spot in the NFC.
Yeah, I think they're an average team overall, and you can get away with it against a team like this. You can't start like this where your defense is getting you the ball and you score 6 points. That was droughty. The start for the offense of you had chances to just put it away early. Eventually they do. So it sounds silly to say here, but I'm just talking of how I felt in the moment of again, if I'm a Carolina fan, I feel like this is a win. Buffalo Bills just drove up and down the field on me twice and they've got 6 points. We're still within a score.
Yeah. And now the Panthers first answer back with their first scoring drive for quite a while. Yeah. They hit that nice first one to Tet McMillan, who is a definite talent. I think when they get stuff figured out at quarterback, that's going to be a guy that is going to be a Mike Evans-ish player.
I love their skill positions kind of as a whole. Really, they have everything but the quarterback right now offensively.
Yeah. I like both of their young tight ends. I think that both
good offensive line.
Tremble and the drawing a blank on the other guy, Jatavian Sanders. They've got some other nice young pieces. When Coker's going well there, they finally got some good pieces on the offensive line. Yeah. But I don't think Bryce Young is it, even if he's better than Andy
Dalton's not.
Andy Dalton's for sure not it. They then started kind of matriculating their way down the field, 6-yard pass, 7-yard run, moving their way down, and then got themselves, again, they're not a team that can really afford it. They get themselves into behind the sticks because of a holding penalty. They got to where it should have been a first down conversion that would have been on 2nd and 3. Hubbard got 8 yards, would have gone down to the 18. Instead, they get a penalty, moves them back to the 26, or moves them back to the 33. Then now only get a 3-yard run. He gets them behind the sticks on 3rd and 7, who gets some pressure. He tries to throw it to Jimmy Horn Jr., and they end up having to settle for a field goal. So again, a drive where it looked like they were about to get their first touchdown, and they were leaning on the run finally, getting them behind the sticks. They just didn't have the ability to turn it around.
Yeah.
This next one is going to be my West Herr drive of the game. I'm not sure if you had this one queued up as well, but obviously needing the big play in the offense, they come out. We get the 3-yard run for James Cook. We get a early one to Khalil Shakir, and then James Cook just explodes for 64 yards, virtually untouched up through the middle. And it was just the kind of play where I think James Cook deserved this kind of performance, ended up with something crazy like 153 yards at halftime. Just an absolutely dominant performance, had a great outing here. And I thought this was a good way to kind of capitalize on giving him credit for what they created, what the offensive line did. I know it's going to say 120 plus yards before contact, which a lot of people will just immediately default to, oh, it was all offensive line. But there are a lot of plays that he was kind of sneaking his way through and doing that slithering through that he does, where guys don't touch him. And his ability to cut back at full speed is incredible. And you notice it even more when you realize that Ray Davis and Ty Johnson can't do the same things when they run those same plays, and those cutback lanes aren't there to be had. Is something special that James Cook is able to do at full speed. And here, maybe not his most impressive run from that standpoint, but just hitting the hole. He hits the line of scrimmage at full speed. It's incredible how quickly he accelerates to get up to full speed. And this is a great example where once he popped through that, one safety was there, just caught flat-footed, had no chance. And
that's a tough spot for safety. Yeah,
at one point, Cook was looking around, trying to see if anybody else was around him because he was so open. But shouts to our guys at West Herr. Love the team over there. Again, one of the biggest auto dealerships in New York State, one of the biggest employers in Western New York. Great people. Head over there for all your automotive needs. Shout out to our guys at West Herr.
We'll bring them back up.
They'll be back here. Yeah. Again, the defense answers here. And like you said, fantastic complimentary football we've been waiting on. Get a quick 3 and out.
This is where you get the Harrison stop on Horn.
Yes, where Harrison comes up and thumps Horn, makes a really nice play. They try to go to McMillan on third down. You get the quick 3 and out, and now it's looking like, hey, this one's going to be under control. Unfortunately, the Bills, have their first non-scoring drive. We do get a couple runs here, getting ourselves into first down territory. We miss the shot here. This is the one where you saw Josh kind of recognizing that he missed Elijah Moore on what would have been a really big one. Now we're behind the sticks a little bit. We're giving James Cook a break on this drive, which again, I'm not gonna fault them today because James Cook was getting a ton of touches, and like we don't need,
at some point
we're up by a
another
lot.
back has to get touches.
Yeah, like I don't mind. We don't need him to be a bell cow when we're winning by that much. Like I'm okay with it, but it's noticeable. It's getting more and more noticeable, the drop off when he's out of the game. So Davis gets a couple yards. We then miss on the play to Shakir. And that one looked like it was set up to be able to convert, similar to the earlier one. We had the matchups. Josh has it low. Shakir's not able to pull it in. We end up needing to punt. Wisnowski has his first punt here of the game. But it answers back in a really fun one where you get them Carolina stuffed. You get that they actually get a nice play to Tet McMillan, and now you get the tipped interception where AJ Epinesa jumps up, tips it to himself, intercepts it, returns it back to the 1 yard line.
Just after the 2-minute warning too. Which is great because they, in a spot like this where you're up 12-3, because your offense wasn't able to convert those first 2 drives, a score here for Carolina is like, you're dominating this game to this point. If you let them come down and score before half and like
would have been 12-10,
make it a game, that's not cool. And so be able to get this stop at the half, and then you kind of see what happens next for Carolina here. It just felt like the Bills kind of at this point are starting to smother them a little bit out of this game.
Yeah, so again, Josh converts it with the tush push. We get him in there for the 1 yarder.
Yeah.
And now Carolina, to their credit, goes 9 plays, 55 yards, starts to get a little bit of a 2-minute drill going. They get, again, a nice pass to Tet McMillan. They get one of their first good runs to Rico Dowdle. They're moving their way down. Joey Bosa gets his first sack here. This is the one that was the legit sack where he kind of bear hugs him and they just blow the whistle. He doesn't have to throw him to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
You now get the one here where it was out of bounds. Coker gets a 22-yarder there that Bosa had pressure on this one as well. The next one, Bosa gets another one where it should have been a sack, but he doesn't grab the jersey, ends up kind of realizing he's going to miss him, kind of instinctually sticks his leg out. That's tripping. That's illegal. You can't do that. And now you give him a 1st and goal at the 9-yard line. And now you get into just some clock management where I thought that Canales was fine in his timeout usage. He had an opportunity earlier where I think he could have done it and protected a little bit after the Dowdle run, but it was
They
fine.
lost the timeout here though too, didn't they, for the runoff on this?
Yes, correct. When they replayed it and saw that Jimmy Horn Jr. didn't get out of bounds, they had to take it or else take the 10-second runoff,
and it was like 20 seconds left.
Is no difference because if they just called that correctly, they would have taken the timeout and it was the same
Lost
thing.
It anyway,
yeah, like that one, they just took it where if that was called correctly, they would have hurried and taken it anyways.
The big issue here, though, you talk about sacks you can't take.
This is one where we gave Josh a hard time earlier on his where, that's a junior high sack. This is the same thing. Like this is one where like high school kids know, like your 3rd and goal with 17 seconds left, literally the only thing you can't do is take a sack. Even if you throw a ball and it gets tackled at like the 2-yard line, at least all the offensive players are there and you have a chance to run up and be able to get something off. This has to be a throw through the end zone, into the end zone, at the sideline. Like you cannot.
This is one read. Spot. You get one read. If it ain't there, chuck it. Yeah. You don't have the time, which is it's just not there for you. And to take a sack is the absolute worst. I'm shocked they even got a kickoff. To be honest,
for any silver lining here, credit to the Carolina field goal unit.
Yeah.
Their scramble drill ability to get onto the field and get what technically looked like was a legal kick. Now, again, if everybody was actually in formation and lined up and all the other guys were off the field or not, I don't know.
They didn't call anybody. And so also shout out to the Bill special teams. They've suffered on some of those quick transition stuff didn't seem like anybody did anything wrong to call a penalty in that situation.
Yeah. So, but the field goal kicker Fitzgerald hooked it anyways, so it didn't actually end up mattering.
Yeah.
But just a weird end of game or end of half sequence where they certainly should have gone in 19-6, which gets it back like under 2 touchdowns. You don't need the 2-point conversions at that point, but just a huge miss by a team that couldn't afford it.
Yeah, and so the Bills don't necessarily get like the traditional double dip, but they sort of activated double dip by getting a stop. They definitely,
I mean, they got a touchdown within the 2-minute warning and then scored coming out. So
yeah,
I'll allow it.
Stop.
A dip and a half. It was a dip and a half.
It's a dip and a half. But whether or not you want to count that, they steal momentum in this game. Yes, correct. Stop. Like that's kind of the blow to a team like that. And actually, if we are coming out of half here, if we want to throw up, I got to pull it up here. There we go. West Herr, my West Herr drive of the game is you had this opportunity. You got the stop out of half. This game isn't close. It's 19-3, but it shouldn't be 19-3 game the way you're playing. This should already be well into the 20s the way your offense is playing. But you come out of half.
Those 2 field goals early should easily been touchdowns.
Yeah, you get a cook run, but you get a flag. It's 1st and 20, and I'm immediately thinking like, here we go. Like we're shoot ourselves in the foot when we have a chance to just blow this game out. Doesn't matter. What actually makes me even more mad is on the 1st and 20 they run like the Josh Allen RPO on a 1st and 20 and pick up 5, and he takes a hit for no reason. Then you get Shakir on a slant, which again wasn't totally on by Josh, but Shakir gets it in. So it's a little clunky here early. You get an incompletion from Allen, but there is a holding. And so you get the first down on a 3rd and 7. They kind of gift you that a little bit. I didn't think it was egregious holding, but there's definitely contact.
Yeah. I will say that's one where Josh got saved because that's one of those plays where he saw the flag get thrown. So he took a deep shot because he assumed he knew what it was. If they talked and picked it up, he had a chance to go short and to pick up the first down. Yeah. And instead, because he saw the flag, he thought he was taking a free deep shot. Which again, Aaron Rodgers was famous for that, and I give him credit for it. But he kind of got saved that they didn't pick that up.
Yeah, and then you get a 1st and 10 after that. Cook goes for 3 yards, but then you're 2nd and 7, and this is where Khalil Shakir takes that 54 yards for the touchdown. Just a special player, needs to get the ball in his hands. But you go 4 plays out of the half, 65 yards, 2 minutes and 42 seconds to actually blow this game out of the water. It's 26-3 before they even get the ball in the second half. This game's over already. That's my West Herr drive of the game. The Bills come out of half, do exactly what they need to do to an inferior team and suffocate them. And then the rest of the game's a party from here on out, Greg. So shout out to our folks at West Herr. You got 2 of them today.
Get the double drive of the game. Gotta love it. And then again, you talk about it all the time, the complementary football. You come back and Carolina has 4 plays for -3 yards. They technically got a first down on the first one. Then we get an incompletion, sack, and then another sack. This is Jordan where the Phillips first sack.
Even though I told everybody I'm so sick of seeing Jordan Phillips play football, he did get a sack, a legitimate sack.
Yeah, and his style of sack where he threw the offensive lineman back into there and then pushed through there. So we got pressure on the incompletion, sack from Jordan Phillips, then that one that hit Chuba Hubbard's arm and goes through there. They actually are crediting it. They have a aborted fumble and then Andy Dalton carry for no gain with a Michael Hoyt tap down tackle. So that's how it was officially tracked. We'll see if that holds here.
Yeah.
And then again, Sam Martin comes in 60-yard punt. Khalil Shakir had to back up a ton to be able to catch this at the 8. Just a 60-yard punt. That's a rocket.
Yeah, but it reminds me when I used to play Madden and I had like a game going in your James Cook, and it's like I would run the ball back a little bit so I could get more yards, right? So you just gave yourself a little bit more yardage like James Cook.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And of course, that's exactly what they did. Heck, we could have done a third West Herr drive of the game because this one
honestly, this was in consideration. Yeah,
88 yards. This is my backup.
Throw it up, West Herr. We love you guys. There we go.
Hey, we deserve it. A third West Herr drive of the game here today.
You're gonna have some nice drives.
And this one just goes 8-yard James Cook, 7 yards James Cook, 12 yards James Cook, 14-yard pass to Coleman was nice. They bring in Ray Davis and get 5 and then 3. We go back to Coleman, then another 10-yard run by James Cook, and then a 21-yard run by James Cook. Again, leading to his unbelievable 19 carries for 216 yards. I think that was his last touch of the game. We'll see. as we go here, but I believe
that
kind of
one
wrapped
more
things
random
up.
touch where they threw him out there on a drive and then they pulled him off.
Yeah, he got the first touch of the next drive to start and got pulled with so James Cook got pulled with 4 minutes and 41 seconds left in this game, and still ran for 216 yards. Can you imagine if this is a competitive game? Yeah, it's unbelievable. So they score there. You come back in. The first play on the next game, you get the Michael Hoyt play that I talked about. Yeah. He pushes the offensive lineman back into Andy Dalton's lap, reaches over, swipes at the ball. He's very good. Like, he's super active with his hands, even if he's getting blocked, of getting his hands up and reaching out. We're going to get a lot more plays like this from him as the season goes. He gets credit for the strip sack fumble. My man, Dan Walker, recovers it.
I was hoping he would break out of that tackle and get going. I was pulling for you to get that.
He got 6 yards, but if he could have hit the open field and hit full stride in all of his glory, like that, really, I might not have made it. Like, I might not have made it honestly, out of my basement.
It flashed through my mind that you would end up maybe in the emergency room.
It's like I would have a moment. I may
choke on a steak nugget from Arby's or something. I don't know.
I may have needed medical attention.
Yeah.
So again, the Bills get a short field. They started the Carolina 19. Cook did get the first. I think that they were coming in and they tried that toss again just in case to see, and like, maybe Cook gets a third touchdown at like 230 yards. He gets that touch. They then sit him again. 4 minutes and 41 seconds left. James Cook sits the rest of this game
because like they had him come out when like he was coming off the field. You saw the running back coach kind of like giggling at him. I almost wonder if McDermott was like in the speaker, like, why is he out there?
Yeah, I'm confident that was real close to what was happening there. I'm confident that was very close to what was happening there. So then they come back out. They actually get the 2-yard run to Cook, a 1-yard pass to Shakir. They end up going with Jackson Hawes and find that on the nice play there. Then I thought they were going to try to run it in with Ray Davis. They tried twice, and then they end up doing the tush push, get Josh Allen in for his second touchdown, and what is also his final play of the game here. So you're able to really get things kind of cleaned up and taken care of here in an entire quarter of garbage time.
Yeah,
Carolina does technically. Yeah, they do technically get a touchdown drive here. Miss the extra point, which I appreciate, keeping them in single digits.
Actually, I needed that touchdown. I'm playing you in fantasy. I got a Hubbard touchdown.
The Chuba Hubbard touchdown.
He didn't have a good game, so it worked out best for me.
I really needed them to like keep up with that. That's I'm disappointed that the backup defense. At that point, the defense was backups as well.
Yeah.
And then again, Mitch Trubisky actually had a couple nice throws. Hit Elijah Moore with a nice one. Hit Coleman for a couple that were decent. But obviously the Panthers were completely keying in on the run game at that point, knowing we were just milking the clock. We get a couple more 3-and-outs to go back and forth, and the Bills wrap things up here. So phenomenal game. Really appreciate all the fine work to give us garbage time and all that kind of fun there around the end of the game. But a 40 burger in the third quarter, 40-9, 31-point victory, much needed all around.
Yeah, we all needed this. It was the longest. I've been doing this a long time, Greg, and we've had slumps. We've had all this stuff. It was a long bye week, very long bye week, and just the conversations. There is some legitimacy to some of the concerns, but the conversations got so out of whack. So it was really good to come down. And against, like I said, this isn't a world beater team, the Carolina Panthers, but this is a team that you don't match up well with in terms of just on paper. They're one of the best offensive run teams in the league, and they were one of the best defensive run teams going into this. And so your strength is the run game. You hit them with that, and you stop their run. It gave fans a lot. There's still a lot to work on. There's still a lot of the roster still got some flux happening. He's got some tough games here coming up, but man, that felt good to just wash that bye week down with a 40 burger.
So are we ready for fantastic producer Colin Ritchie to come up here for what's brewing?
Honestly, I don't know what's going on. Tell us what's brewing, Colin. I haven't been online.
The best stats here. Anything else that came up here during the game? Colin, how we doing?
Doing great, guys. Happy National Tight Ends Day to both of you.
Yeah, I would have been nice if we could have got one here. Yeah. I saw George Kittle got a touchdown, so at least one of the tight ends did. We'll see how it doesn't look like quite as prolific as last year's National Tight Ends Day.
Yeah, I'll say the Browns got both of their tight ends a touchdown. David Njoku and Harold Fannin both got in the end zone for them. So they're respecting the holiday at least.
That's right.
All right. So we'll start before we get into some of the fun trade target stuff. Let's talk about some of the best stats from the game today.
Yeah, well, I'll start with a tight end stat for you that the Bills are 5-0 when Jackson Haas catches a pass and 0-2 when he doesn't. So that streak continues.
That's math.
We'll go to some James Cook now, whose 64-yard touchdown was the second longest run of his career. He had 153 rushing yards in the first half, which is the most by any player in the first half of a game since his brother Dalvin had 153 back in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool. That's a fun one. That's a pretty fun one. The last guy to have 153 yards in the first half was Dalvin Cook. That's a neat combo.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then when you add on his third quarter performance, he had 216 rushing yards, a new career high, by the way, in 3 quarters, which is the most by a player in the first 3 quarters of a game since Derrick Henry back in 2018.
Wow. Yeah. Dominant.
Historic game, all time kind of stuff. And again, if this was a more competitive game, I'm not going to be crazy that I think he would have broken the NFL rushing record, but I think that 250 plus was almost a certainty. And that
Carolina kept scoring and we had to.
Correct. If we needed to keep going, I don't think it's crazy that he could have taken a run at the all-time rushing record. I think that was a possibility.
Yeah. Does anyone know how many smelling salts per game James Cook is using, or no? I'm going to go back and track the film on it. I want to know.
It is he keeps them is it in his hand warmer or in his
I think
belt?
It's in his just tucked in
his waistband.
Yeah.
But almost before. I don't know if it's every.
It's almost like a tell on a run, honestly.
When he's going to get the ball, it seems like he sniffs a smelling salt beforehand.
You asked how he bursts through the hole so quick. I think it's that.
Hey, you want to know what? Who am I to judge? It seems very motivating. Very motivating.
All I know is there's a correlation between those and success. So.
All right. Any other great stats that stuck out to you, Colin, before we get into maybe some of the fun wish list things people in the chat want to hear?
Yeah, and this one I'm going to turn into a little game for you guys. So AJ Epinesa is the 4th defensive lineman in Bills history with 3 or more career interceptions. Can you guys guess any of the other 3?
Aaron Schobel.
Yes, Aaron Schobel had 3 career interceptions.
It's a great one.
I feel like one of them is going to be a fat defensive tackle. Is there a hint there? Do I get a hint? A clue? Is there?
No, but it's a fun thought.
High school or college, and then had 2 in his brief window of time with us. Defensive line. I don't remember Bruce getting interceptions.
No.
Phil Hansen played for a long time.
No, good thoughts.
All right, who are the other 2?
Yeah.
All right, so we have Chris Kelsey also with 3.
Dang it! When you said Schobel, I was just going to instinctively go hey, maybe Kelsey had some too.
What a time frame for lineman interceptions.
I should have said it.
And then we're going back to
hope during the drought.
We're going back to the 60s with Ron McDowell, who had
of course it was Ron
interceptions. 6 interceptions.
I've never even heard of that.
I talk about Ron McDowell all the time. You know I'm a big Ron McDowell guy.
First team All-Pro for the Bills in 1966, second team All-Pro for the Bills in 67 and 68.
Sure he was.
And it was the interceptions he was racking up. He was a ball hawk in the 60s.
6 interceptions.
He was
ridiculous for defensive
hard hat, lunch pail kind of guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea, but that's cool. I'm glad I got Aaron Schobel right. I remember those Aaron Schobel ones. The Patriots, the Monday Night Football Patriots on Tom Brady.
Yeah. All right. So I'll turn this one around for you guys. Let's assume that our best case scenario is Ed Oliver could maybe be back for a divisional round playoff game. Let's assume that's our best case scenario, and that maybe it's not technically season ending, but it's regular season ending. So we don't know that, but under that assumption, is your top priority in a trade to get an impactful wide receiver or to replace Oliver at defensive tackle?
So this is the question I asked Eric Turner offline because we were chatting about this of how does this change anything, and I still don't know what is up with TJ Sanders' availability to come back at any point, because I think that could change it.
I don't believe he's season ending, and obviously neither is Daquan Jones. I think that's more short term. So I'm under the assumption that in the near future we're going to have Deion Walker, Larry Ogunjobi start with Daquan Jones and TJ Sanders is the backups.
Yeah. And TJ Sanders was like, I think TJ Sanders was this close to popping off before that.
Yeah, he had
like
nice
he was right there,
games.
And so I'm excited to get him back. But I don't know when that is. I guess that's the balance. Is like internally, what's that look like?
Yeah, I think it's like a short-term fix at defensive tackle, but a potential long-term fix that you would need at wide receiver. At the end of the day, I think this is still a team that is going to rely on their offense more than their defense. And the defense looked great, but this is a Carolina Panthers team who doesn't have an offense that I'm super impressed with. So I'm glad the defense looked as good as it did, but we're going to need consistent 4 touchdown games from this offense to be in the position that we want to be in. And I think that comes from a wide receiver at the deadline, if that's the move that they're able to make.
So I'll even use different adjectives than short-term and long-term. I think that it's a cheap Band-Aid fix at defensive tackle. I think that it's the kind of thing where you talk to one of these teams that's losing and like, hey, I'm not even kidding. I think it's a bye week. Harrison Phillips is a possibility from the Jets. Already got traded from Minnesota to the Jets. The Jets, although they did get their first win today, so they're 1-7, might be going on a run. The team that I would first look at is I'd call Arizona and ask about Calais Campbell. He did not sign a big contract. I think he signed there because people genuinely thought Arizona was going to be competitive. I thought they were sneaky, could have won that division this year. They're now, all 3 other teams have 5 wins and they're at 2-5. And they have some nasty division losses.
Yeah. Kyler Murray ain't it.
Kyler Murray's not it, correct.
Yeah.
So my first call is Michael Pittman's touchdown.
That Michael Pittman catch. Oh my
Michael
God.
Pittman was just while we're watching, Aaron and I think are both watching Red Zone. Michael Pittman was being interfered with, and the defender was holding half his body, and with his one open hand, without being able to watch the ball, caught the ball in the end zone as he was being interfered with. It is going to be a play that's a highlight play.
Yeah. On the arm that was
on everything.
Wow.
Yeah. Like pinned it with his bicep. Unbelievable. Okay.
Can we get one of those?
I would say, or it's a Harrison Phillips. It's those kind of guys. If we were to make a bigger move, the only bigger move I could see us making is, we've obviously seen the Stephon Diggs trade previously. We've obviously heard the rumors, and I'll say that I don't think any of them are likely. Obviously, Chris Olave and Jalen Waddle and people asking about crazy stuff like that. I don't think any of those are going to happen. And I don't think Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be traded. But I will say some people who are plugged in that space have said, people that cover the Jaguars have said he doesn't seem to want to be there. And it seems like this may not be the right fit. A lot of people are like, oh, well, he's in his rookie contract. But yeah, this head coach and GM are not the ones who drafted him, and this GM and head coach traded up for a receiver as their first pick. And an insider that has been right about things in the past made the comment that he can be had. Like that this is something where it's not hey, he's untouchable. He could be acquired. So again, that's a spot where he played at such a ridiculous level last year. If you have a chance to buy low on that because it doesn't click with what's there and hasn't been the right fit with this team this year, that would be super interesting. I still think it's super unlikely, but if you're going to make a bigger acquisition, it's there. I think if they do anything at linebacker, safety, defensive tackle, it's fringe depth pieces, just some guys who could help fill in a little bit here or there that maybe helps, but isn't a game-changing thing. I don't think they're going to make any monster acquisition, but I will say Brian Thomas Jr. has a $960,000 salary. Chris Olave is $1.2 million. Like those kind of guys, even Jalen Waddle, technically, there's zero chance the Dolphins would ever trade us Jalen Waddle. But those are the kind of guys where, in theory, it's just our acquisition price. Like the finances have nothing to do with it. People ask me about Jeffrey Simmons. Jeffrey Simmons makes $20 million. Calvin Ridley makes $20 million. Like a lot of those, Budda Baker makes too much money. All those guys, we would have to ask those teams to eat huge chunks of salary, and they would want extra draft picks to do that. So guys who don't make very much money, where the only question is the draft compensation and not the finances or the shuffling things around, there's a possibility. And I would even guess, if you had to gave me the over-under at how many deadline transactions Brandon Beane makes, and it's at 0.5, I think I would take the over. I think we will make a small move or two. I don't think we're going to make an earth-shattering first-round pick trade, but I would bet we make a small move or two to bring in probably a depth safety and a depth defensive tackle, and maybe it's a guy capable of playing. Maybe it's just a guy to set a floor now that we have, for whatever reason, Taylor Rapp on IR, and now it looks like Oliver at minimum on IR, hopefully with the possibility to return. I think those are spots where maybe we make a bit of a Band-Aid type move.
So Jeremy Chin and George Pickens,
obviously. Yeah.
Where's what we're doing?
So
Shaheed, I think, was be going into the day. It sounded like maybe Olave is not.
Which to me just sounds like they're not getting the offer they would want to move him.
Correct.
But so Rashid,
which makes sense. That's a tough.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these names that come up here, even to Brian Thomas Jr., like they're gonna want compensation.
Oh yeah.
For
the way
that.
he played last year, he played better than his first round pick status last year.
Correct.
Maybe because it's been a rough start this year, you could try to haggle there, but
I don't think
he's also making $960,000.
They don't need
25 teams will offer a pick, and most of them have picks better than us. Yeah. Some of those high picks, they're not going to offer a first, but lots of other competitors will. Like, we would need to offer a first to be the best offer because Brian Thomas Jr. is really good.
Yeah, and but I do think you're watching some of these teams here this week, and I think Shaheed. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt in a game like this. We're watching; they're losing right now, 7-0. That's a 1-16.
He'd be an easier acquisition. How about our guy Andrew here asking, does Gabe Davis play next week?
I don't think next week. It didn't look like he's ramping.
They haven't even opened his practice window. He gets the same 21-day practice window, even from the practice squad, as what Harrison did. So I'd be surprised if they opened. Like, I guess they just did it with Harrison, so we can't be completely shocked. I'd be surprised if they open his window and activate him immediately. But I guess you never know.
You can add a little bit more fuel to the Brian Thomas Jr. fire if you want, because right before the draft, when Malik Neighbors was on Instagram Live, he predicted that his LSU teammate Brian Thomas would get drafted by the Bills. So maybe that's something, maybe that's nothing, but
I like it.
There's a little bit there if you want it.
I do think that the Bills were interested in him, and I'll go as far as to say I think they did try to trade up to get him, but none of those teams there were looking to trade down. That was the challenge.
Right.
That they all stuck and picked, and they got good players, and you can't force a team to trade down. So when he started sliding, I do think the Bills were making phone calls to go get him. It just nobody wanted to trade down. So it is what it is, and they end up falling to Jacksonville. Ended up being a really nice pick for them. And now maybe they'll be dumb that a new regime is going to move in, but teams have done dumb things before, so we'll see where it goes. All right. Count, anything else here for the squad? Any news out of the locker room? Any other stats?
I'll just add one more stat for you guys real quick. So Josh Allen and James Cook both had 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. They're the only quarterback running back duo with multiple touchdown rushes in the same game, doing that multiple times. The other one being Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
How about this? If you had given me that combo was a quarterback and Derrick Henry, would your answer have been that it was Ryan Tannehill? Because I would have guessed that him and Lamar did it last year.
Or even Mariota before that.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, it's wild.
And Tannehill had
some legs, man. He had some wheels.
He was sneaky. He was sneaky efficient at one point. Yeah. All right, Aaron, anything else for the people?
No, man, this is I'm gonna enjoy this one.
Much needed.
Like I said, this was a long bye week. I'm gonna savor this. They did more than cover the spread. My friend Dan was like, hey, they need to come. Dan Fetz said they need to come out and cover the spread. They more than did that. This is a good win. I'm sure there's fans out there trying to like poo-poo.
Zero doubt. But I'm sure somebody's complaining about the passing game not being what it's supposed to be.
You won't see me. I'm sure we'll find some faults in the game, but I think this is a flawed team that is still 5-2. Like, they're in exactly the position they need to be. We do this every year, Greg. We don't need them to be the team that we need them to be until the holidays. So if they can keep stacking 40 burgers and winning and not playing perfect football, this is the best time of my life. And I can't wait till they're playing good football.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. Yeah, not good football, scoring 40 points is nice. I'll take that.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we appreciate you very, very much. Big shout out to our sponsors, Southern Tier Brewing Company and West Herr Auto Dealership. We appreciate you guys. But on behalf of fantastic producer Colin Ritchie and my lovely partner in crime, Aaron Quinn, you have been listening to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. I'm Greg Tompsett, and we are out.
Go Bills.